Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Are you a film fan who loves the ultimate home video experience? Look no further than The Disconnected. Your host, Ryan Verrill, is your go-to source for the latest and most accurate information on home video releases, exclusive interviews with industry insiders and filmmakers, and has established a thriving community where every film and physical media enthusiast feels welcome. From hidden gems to blockbuster hits, The Disconnected brings you insider knowledge and a welcoming space to share your love of cinema. Watch every Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific for the live announcements show and follow The Disconnected on social media to stay updated. Subscribe to The Disconnected on YouTube or on the podcast provider of your choice and dive into a world where every movie night is an adventure.
Weirding Ray Media.
I was a child of the 80s during the rise of cable television. Back then, a movie didn't have to be a giant box office smash to land in heavy rotation. As such, we were afforded the opportunity to discover all sorts of wonderful films that we probably wouldn't have had the chance to otherwise. I've made no bones about my love of underdog media, those underloved albums or movies that had so much to offer, yet were somehow left behind by the culture at large. Tonight, I want to tell you about one such underdog, a rock and roll movie that became a fast favorite in the HP household. But I'll bet you've probably never heard of it. Tonight, I want to introduce you to the Idolmaker. Hello listeners, to another episode of Noise Junkies. I'm HP. This episode, I'll be discussing 1980's The Idolmaker, directed by Taylor Hackford. The name Taylor Hackford might be familiar to you. He directed An Officer and a Gentleman, The Devil's Advocate, not to mention the Ray Charles biopic Ray, which nabbed star Jamie Foxx the Best Actor Oscar back in 2004. Incidentally, you might also know Hackford as Mr. Helen Mirren. They've been married since 1997. Anyway, The Idolmaker was Hackford's first feature as a director. The Idolmaker tells the story of Vinnie Vicari, a struggling songwriter in late 50s New York, hustling for his big break in the music business. Believing the only thing holding him back is his look, he instead finds his calling as a talent manager, molding others into his ideal of the perfect teen idol. However, his zeal for success comes at a tremendous cost, both to Vinnie and to those around him. Written by Ed DiLorenzo with a rewrite by Hackford, it was based on the real-life tale of Bob Marcucci, the man who discovered Frankie Avalon and Fabian. Vinnie was portrayed by Ray Sharkey. If ever there was a perfect match of character and actor, this was it. Hackford needed a tough Italian-American from the streets of New York, and he found that in Sharkey. Ray was, like Vinnie, a tough guy from humble beginnings looking for his big acting break, that role that would make him a star. He'd already had some small success appearing in small roles on shows like Kojak, Barney Miller, and The Streets of San Francisco, but big-time success had eluded him. He knew The Idolmaker was his shot at success, and his performance is electric. Ray is Vinnie Vicari. To pull this off, you need to believe in Vinnie's talent, his charm, his energy, his confidence. Even when Vinnie's hubris takes him down a very dark and cruel path, you can't help but root for him despite his flaws. and Sharkey delivers big time. A good example of this is the scene where Vinny goes to visit the Italian grandmother of a potential new discovery. He needs to try and convince this protective Nonna to let her grandson live and work with him, but she's very wary of his pitch. She doesn't speak a word of English, so Vinny chats in Italian with her and uses his charm to convince her. The entire scene is spoken in Italian with no English subtitles at all. Ray didn't need them. The viewer can tell exactly what Vinny is saying just through his performance. Ray himself was fluent in Italian. As Hackford tells it, growing up a half-Irish, half-Italian kid in a tough Brooklyn neighborhood, Ray had to be more Italian than the other kids to survive. And for his efforts, Sharkey was awarded the Golden Globe in 1981 for Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical. Vinny first sees the necessary raw talent in a small-time sax player named Tommy DiLarusso, which Vinny shortens to Tommy D. Tommy was played by Paul Land, who embodies Tommy's exuberance throughout his ascent into fame, temptation, and amorality. Land would only act in a couple more movies, including 1983's TNA flick Spring Break, before retiring from acting. He would eventually run his own successful construction business in New Jersey before his untimely death at age 51. Vinny's best friend and musical partner, Gino Pilato, is played by none other than Joe Pantoliano. Pantoliano later made his name in such movies as Risky Business, The Goonies, La Bamba, and of course The Matrix. Here, Pantoliano is the perfect foil for Vinny, as sensitive and loyal as Vinny is controlling and volcanic. One of Vinny's targets in bolstering his talent roster is winning over the editor of the fictional Teen Scene magazine, Brenda Roberts, here played by titan of stage and screen, Tova Feldsha. She's been in tons of TV like Law & Order and The Walking Dead, but she's also made memorable appearances in the movies Happy Accidents, Kissing Jessica Stein, and Brewster's Millions. Her Brenda Roberts is tough, authentic, no-nonsense, eventually charmed by Vinny and falling for him despite her reservations. Vinny finds that he needs to expand his roster beyond the tempestuous Tommy D and settles on a 16-year-old busboy named Guido from his brother's restaurant. Guido, eventually rechristened Cesare, is played by Peter Gallagher. You've seen him in everything from The Hudsucker Proxy to American Beauty to Grey's Anatomy, and of course his iconic role as Sandy Cohen in The O.C. A classically trained singer and dancer, Gallagher had perhaps the toughest challenge to portray Guido as a clumsy, shy teen who Vinny imbues with his talent through harsh and often cruel measures. Although Paul Land had his singing voice overdubbed by professional singer Jesse Frederick, all of Cesare's singing is performed by Gallagher himself. And it's a credit to Gallagher's performance that you believe his transformation every step of the way. It makes Cesare's moments of triumph that much more exhilarating to witness. Check out However Dark the Night, one of Cesare's showstoppers from the movie.
When love's burning bright, you can't remember pain and sorrow. You have no past, there's no tomorrow. Not when love is hot today. When love starts to cool, I see pain is so surprising, but you can't stop the sun from rising, and it'll melt the ice away. So don't you let me see you crying. Now don't you let me see you cry. There will be a bright tomorrow, however dark the night. There will come the morning light, however dark the night.
Fun fact about Jesse Frederick: he co-wrote and performed the themes to several 80s sitcoms, including Full House, Step by Step, and Family Matters. The Idolmaker is essentially a rock musical, and as such lives and dies by its music. Originally, legendary Wall of Sound producer Phil Spector was slated to produce the music, but Hackford was forced to part ways with the notoriously eccentric Spector. Apparently, Spector had grown too protective of the material he'd written, and the songs were not progressing as they got closer to the start of production. Enter Jeff Barry. Barry had co-written such iconic pop songs as Do-Wah Diddy, Be My Baby, Leader of the Pack, and Sugar Sugar. He'd also produced A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You, and I'm a Believer for the Monkees. So Jeff Barry's bona fides were pretty damn solid. I've heard criticism over the years that his Idolmaker songs weren't time period authentic, but to me, they blend an authentic pop rock feel with the then modern production techniques of the early 1980s. You need songs that perform on both text and subtext levels. And bottom line, the songs are really, really catchy and really, really fucking good. Check out Here Is My Love, the song that puts Tommy D on the map. It doesn't just work gangbusters in context of the movie, it feels like a hit to me.
You got that head-turning walk, just talking about makes me want you again. But I am watching my step, I know my reputation. So you tell me when you got everything I'd ever want. You got everything I'd ever need. So I'm coming to you, honey, with my love out in the lead. Oh, 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 I've been up, I've been down, I've been played with and pushed around. I've been in, I've been out. Baby, this time there ain't no doubt. Here is my love. Here is my love. Here is my love, love, love. Ooh, yeah.
Not only does the music have to work in the context of the movie, but the musical performances have to visually deliver. And here, Hackford and his DP Adam Hollander do amazing work. Whether the setting is a junior high school gym full of hormone-crazed teeny boppers, or a live theater bristling with energy and tension, the musical scenes are always dynamic, and you, the viewer, almost feel like Vinny, watching as his molded talents put it all on the line, sink or swim. Music and images work propulsively to pull the viewer along. There's so much more to this movie. I haven't even mentioned Vinny's complicated relationship with his estranged father with mob connections, or Kenneth O'Brien's oily performance as a disc jockey Vinny must appease to get airplay. Most notoriously, I haven't spoken of Maureen McCormick, yes, Marcia Brady, and her portrayal of a sexy reporter who gets a little too involved with one of Vinny's stars. You heard me right. Marcia Brady seduces a teen idol. For me to say any more about the Idolmaker would be to spoil it. Just understand that Vinny's story arc is believable and complete. You're with Vinny through every success and failure, every misstep and triumph. We, the viewers, may not always agree with him or what he does to achieve his goals, but you can't take your eyes off of him. We see the core of Vinny and always pull for him to achieve his dreams. And I simply cannot imagine any other actor embodying the character of Vinny more fully than Ray Sharkey. Possibly my favorite song on the soundtrack is I Believe It Can Be Done, which was sung by Ray Sharkey himself. It's such a beautiful summation of the character and his journey, and performed so poignantly by Sharkey. It gets me every time I hear it.
Love is a lifelong puzzle. But isn't love why we're here? You got to make a million pieces fit if you want to make some sense of it. And I'll never quit. Oh no, I've just begun. 'Cause I believe it can be done. I believe it can be done. And maybe when it hurts the most, oh, maybe that means to do is just do it.
The Idolmaker was a critical success and modestly successful at the box office. But beyond Sharkey's Golden Globe Award, the film all but disappeared after release. Fabian Forte, the real-life inspiration for Cesare, also filed a $64 million lawsuit against the film, alleging defamation and invasion of privacy. He would later settle out of court. Ray Sharkey would never reach the same heights again as an actor. Frustrated with his lack of success, he would fall into a serious heroin addiction, which necessitated several rehab stints that seriously stunted a once promising career. He would eventually rebound, finding success as Sonny Steelgrave in the hit TV series Wise Guy. Sharkey's portrayal of Sonny was so popular, they found ways to bring the character back even after the character's death, usually portraying him as appearing in the lead character's dreams. But the momentum eventually stalled after Wise Guy, and the plum rolls dried up again. Sharkey would eventually die of AIDS-related complications in 1993 at the age of 40. Nowadays, a movie like The Idolmaker might end up in streaming purgatory, one movie amongst hundreds, probably thousands, just a drop in the content bucket. It would be hard for someone to discover randomly. Maybe word of mouth would carry it, maybe not. But back in those early days of cable TV that I mentioned up top, the cable networks were always looking for more content to fill their programming days. I have a vivid memory of seeing the trailer for The Idolmaker played on the movie channels. This is what passed for commercials back then, a clever way for viewers to get a little sneak peek at the other offerings. Plus, it effectively mirrored those coming attractions we were so used to seeing in the actual movie theaters, making it feel even more like the theatrical experience brought home.
You got that head-turning walk, just talking about makes me want you again.
You got it, Tommy. I saw it in there. You know something? With the right handling, you can go all the way.
He'll teach you how to move,
All we gotta do is loosen it up and bring the talent up to match your face.
how to smile,
They want Prince Charming, you know? Somebody cute and safe.
how to sing.
I just want to take you where I'm going.
He'll tell you when to think,
I told you I wanted movies for Tommy, not television. You got that?
when to talk,
From now on, you don't go nowhere. You don't leave this house. You don't do nothing.
when to love.
One of your star reporters was having an affair with one of the idols.
And if you're lucky, if you last, he'll make you a star.
I can make it happen for you, kid.
He's the Idolmaker.
Here is my love. Here is my love.
The business needs a new teen idol, and Tommy's the one.
He's the voice behind the voice.
Must be pretty tough to even get it played maybe 3 or 4 times a day.
Little lover, be mine. Oh, little lover, let your light shine.
He's the face behind the face.
There's somebody special. Somebody people are gonna want to look at.
He's the mind behind the fantasies of millions. He takes a no one
He's not gonna get there unless I push.
You mean you're not going to get there unless you push?
and makes him someone
We're building him into a legend.
to everyone.
So don't you let me see you crying.
They love him. They're going crazy over it. I did it. Yeah, I did it.
The Idolmaker, starring Ray Sharkey, Tova Felcher, Peter Gallagher, and Paul Land. The Idolmaker. He could do it for you.
My brothers and I loved this movie, and I can even remember watching it with my parents, who must have been a little concerned at their 7-year-old son watching a movie with decidedly adult situations and language. But pretty much all that adult stuff was over my head, and I just focused on the music, spectacle, and magnetism of the lead character. I still count it amongst my very favorite movies, musical or otherwise. There were even several attempts to remake The Idolmaker over the years. In 2008, the producing team behind the filmed adaptation of Chicago announced their intent to produce a stage version of Idolmaker. In 2011, it was reported that Ryan Gosling was slated to make his directorial debut and star in a remake of The Idolmaker. And in 2014, Variety reported that a remake was in the works, to be directed by Hustle and Flow's Craig Brewer and starring Justin Timberlake. Two of the original film's producers, Howard Koch and Gene Kirkwood, were even slated to produce. However, none of these ever seemed to progress beyond the announcement stage. How can someone see The Idolmaker today? Well, Shout Factory put out a terrific Blu-ray edition of The Idolmaker several years ago, which included Taylor Hackford's outstanding director's commentary. For streaming, you can find it on MGM+. Either way, it's well worth seeking out if you're a fan of rock musicals, particularly featuring the late 50s, early 60s. But don't worry if that's not your thing. The story of The Idolmaker is timeless, as are the performances. Give it a try. I don't think you'll be disappointed. That's it for this episode of Noise Junkies. Thank you for indulging me once again. When I'm not listening to music, you can find me elsewhere on the Weirding Way Network. I co-host the Night Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast alongside Midnight Viewing's Father Malone, and I'm an occasional guest on the Culture Cast with Chris Dashew. And I have a Bandcamp site, hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com. I've just released a brand new album called Wired and Waiting. Please check it out. As always, please feel free to write us, rate us, review us. We'd love to hear from you in any manner that you choose. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again next time.